Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great, thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim. I'm back again to talk about Jordan Peele's Us. Now, this is not usually a movie I would run out to the theater to see. I don't love horror movies. I don't love to be scared. I watch Game of Thrones, but I have to close my eyes through half of it because I'm very sensitive to violence. I hate to see blood. I don't like to see people getting killed. And this movie has that. And also, I didn't love Get Out. But you know what I love? Talking about movies. I love having conversations about movies and TV. So that's why I'm here with y'all. Okay, so I have to say, this is going to be a long video. There's just so much to talk about. If you've seen the movie, then you know. We're gonna be here. 2, this is going to be a spoiler-filled video. Can't talk about it if I don't tell you the plot. And the plot has some huge twists, like major reveals. So if you don't want to know what happens in this movie that is actually has a really interesting and different ending, then, oh, is that a spoiler? Okay, I'm sorry. You gotta go. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, it's time to go. Okay, let's get into it. I watched Us this weekend and I saw it twice. And I'm glad I saw it twice because after the first viewing, I really didn't like it a whole lot. I really was not impressed. I was ready to come on camera and drag it. In my original notes, I said, this movie is barely better than Bird Box. Like, I don't know what he was doing. It borderline sucks. But I'm glad that I went back and saw it the second time, as a responsible critic would do, because it gave me the opportunity to grab hold of a lot of the things that I missed during the first viewing. Now, I still didn't love this movie, but I get it a lot more, and now we can have a real conversation about it. My thing is movies that are well constructed and movies that have themes that we can break apart and talk about, you know, get real theoretical, because y'all know I love theory. Us kind of has that, but it also has some issues. So let me see if I can explain the first part of the plot as quickly as possible. The movie opens with a little girl watching a television. She's watching a Hands Across America commercial. It's set in 1986. Next thing we know, they're at a carnival at a beach in Santa Cruz, California. The little girl is with her fighting parents. By the way, Madison Curry, who plays Little Adelaide, adorable girl. She's at this carnival in 1986 with her parents. They're, you know, a little bickering. They're having marital troubles. Or maybe they're not married. I don't know. Maybe they're progressive. Who knows? But anyways, her dad is playing these games, puts her in a little Thriller t-shirt. The mom goes to the bathroom. Dad is being, you know, a dad playing games, not paying attention. Little Madison, or her real name is not Madison. That's her real name. Her name in the movie is Adelaide. Little Adelaide wanders off, you know, down to the beach, being a little mischievous girl. She wanders into a fun house that says Vision Quest, find yourself. She goes into this fun house. Now, look, if it was me, and I'm, you know, 6 years old or 7, however old she was, I'm not wandering off by myself to go into a fun house. But little Adelaide's different. She is an adventurer. So she goes off into this fun house. It's really scary and spooky. It's filled with mirrors. She eventually finds a mirror, and in the reflection in the mirror, it looks like somebody is turned around, but it looks like little Adelaide from the back. And then all of a sudden we see the look of terror in Adelaide's eyes. And that is the big poster that we see, you know, big eyes, this little cute girl with the little pigtails. That's the poster. Moving on. Then we jump to present day. Adelaide is married with a little cute, you know, typical American family with her husband and 2 kids. They don't have a dog though, because you know, Black people don't like dogs. Anyways, so present day, this, you know, prototypical American family is headed off to their summer house. Obviously, they're middle class, her upper middle class, and Adelaide still has that fear of the beach because she's been through, oh, I forgot to say earlier. So after she wanders off, she, presumably, we don't see this part, but her parents find her and she's scarred from that experience. She's so scarred that after she gets lost and wanders off, she does not speak anymore, and she finds her voice through dance. Okay, so now we're back in the present day. In the present day, Adelaide has a cute little family. She speaks again, but she still has a fear of the beach. Her husband convinces her to go to the beach. She says, no, I don't want to go, but he convinces her. So after she and her family go to the beach, they go back to their home, and that's when the real action of this film starts. Adelaide tells her husband, this really traumatic thing happened to me when I was a little girl. This is going to sound crazy. I saw her. She looked like me. She's still chasing me. The husband is like, no, that didn't really happen, because, men don't really be listening to us like that. And as soon as that story is over, who do we see? Her child, little Jason. The children's names are Zora and Jason. We see little Jason at the door, says, someone's outside. And that begins the real action. I'm going to stop with the synopsis there, because then we can go into the real meat and potatoes of this film and what is happening. Okay. I'm going to divide this review into 3 parts: good, bad, and what the heck does it all mean? Obviously, we're going to start with the good, because I have home training. It's good news, then bad news. The beginning of this movie is so good. It instantly draws you in. Everything about it, from the set design to the actors to the wardrobe, you are there. Little Madison Curry, who plays younger Adelaide, is wonderful. I wonder how old she was. I mean, she can't be older than 8. She looks very, very young. She's really tiny, but it was essential for her to get right that look of terror, that look of shock. That is the indelible image from this film, and it's so important that that's how this film has been marketed, with, big eyes and the look of just pure and utter fright on her face. Wonderful. Killed it. On a cultural note about little Madison, it just feels so good to see Black girls and Black women on screen with hairstyles that I recognize. Those 2 little ponytails, and then we get Zora, and then we get older Adelaide, and then we get Red. It just feels good. Everybody doesn't have type 2C hair or whatever. I loved the title sequence of this movie. So from those opening scenes to the title sequence, A freaking plus. We don't even know what the rabbits are, what they mean in the beginning, but all I know is those rabbits were creepy as hell with that music in the background. Wonderful. And the slow pan out, so good. That slow pan with that original score in the background really made this feel like a horror movie. Speaking of music, I really liked the way that music was used in this film. I like the combination of original score and popular music. Everybody has already talked about how interesting the use of I Got 5 on It is. Who would have picked that? Shout out to Jordan Peele. Really cool choice. I also thought it was cool that they integrated the version of I Got 5 on It that we all know and love with the string version, with the pizzicato and the bowed, the string version. I used to play cello, so I use cello terms, but it was good. It was cool. And I like that the choices that they made upset what we expect from a horror movie soundtrack. I've seen horror movies against my will, and they do all have that kind of similar sounding string, classical music soundtrack. This is definitely different. It's a nice update. I never see movies in theaters. It is my least favorite thing in the world. I just hate it. And actually, the second time I went to go see this movie, I fell asleep during the boring part, and there is a boring part. I don't know, something about my body chemistry, it doesn't work for me. But there were things that happened in this film that made me pay attention. One of those is the sound design. So not just the use of music, but the sound design with, the door slamming or things that make you jump. There were a few times where there were sounds in this movie that weren't even connected to action, just sounds, things happening off screen, and they made me jump like I was on the edge of my seat. This movie is filled with dark brown chocolate drops. I know some people don't like it when you refer to black people like food, sorry. Beautiful, deep brown complexions, and they all looked gorgeous all throughout this movie. I'm a sucker for that. There were so many different times during this movie where I was like, ooh, look at that chiaroscuro, right? So chiaroscuro is, of course, the play of light and darkness on skin, on surfaces. So I remember a scene in this film where little Adelaide is walking on the boardwalk and one side of her face is lit and the other side of her face is in shadow. And I was like, ooh, looks so good. And most of this movie, it happens at night. So all of those deep brown complexions are barely lit, but of course you can still see them and they all look glistening and beautiful. I'm a sucker for that. Jordan Peele as a director, and we know that he directed this movie, wrote it, and produced it. He really knows how to use lighting and sound and camera shots to set the mood. And I guess maybe that's why he's good at making genre movies. There's a shot where the white friends are being murdered and by their shadow people, and we see them being murdered through the glass. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting choice to not have us inside of the home when this is happening, to have them, the shadow people stabbing them and have us being outside. Oh, I thought, oh. Okay, that's all my technical stuff. Let's get to the acting. Obviously, you saw the movie, or if you've read any reviews of this movie, then you know. You know. Lupita Nyong'o is the name of this freaking game. It is such a shame that we see Lupita so rarely. And yeah, we see her in a movie like once a year or whatever, but she should be how Julia Roberts was. She should be how Jennifer Aniston was. She should be how Jennifer Lawrence is. Like, we should be seeing her multiple times a year as the lead in multiple things because she is that good. I don't know why I was so, like, we know that she's good, but maybe because I just wasn't expecting a lot from this movie. But man, she elevated every single scene that she was in. She had to play dual roles, so she had to be normal American Adelaide, and then she had to be creeped out Red. The choice that she made for Red with that voice, I've heard her say that she based it off of a medical condition called dysphonia. So good. And then the physicality of Red. So Red moves like a robot, right? But it's like a ballet trained robot. So it's like, how is it that the movements are cut off, but they're still very smooth? I don't know, girl, but she did it. She really did it. And the best scene in this movie is the final scene where Red is fighting Adelaide. So freaking good. We see such a distinct difference between Red and Adelaide. It's just, it was wonderful. She's great. And Red's role here is so important because she is the only one of the shadow people of the tethered who can speak. Just the choices that Lupita made in this movie, you know, the reason why this movie isn't a B movie, the reason why this movie isn't Bird Box, no shade to Bird Box, because it was whatever it was elevated because of the artistry that Lupita Nyong'o brought to this role. I'm going to stand by that. I also thought the kid actors were great, particularly Lil Jason, played by Evan Alex. Evan Alex, who played Jason, did have a really important role in this film. I actually wrote in the notes the first time. Is he autistic? It seems like he might be on the spectrum, like he has a special ability a little bit. And then he also had to play Pluto, who is animalistic and he's crawling on the floor, and that is physically demanding in a certain way. I loved Zora, played by Shahadi Joseph, I believe her name is. I thought the kids were really, really good. And I have to say, even if I didn't love this film, I appreciate the fact that Jordan Peele introduced me to these two great child actors and gave Lupita the opportunity to do that. I, obviously, if you've watched my review of Handmaid's Tale Season 2, I freaking love Elizabeth Moss. She is my Scientology bae. She was wonderful as Kitty. There is a Kitty, and I don't know what Kitty's shadow person's name is. So she was really cute or whatever as Kitty. But the shadow person was also really good. There is a scene where the shadow person is killed, the tethered person has killed them, and she's looking in the mirror and she's putting on the lip gloss. Those 15 or 20 seconds, that was acting, okay? Elizabeth Moss gave us some acting in those 15 seconds. So loved that. Tim Heidecker is the name of the actor who plays Kitty's husband. Don't remember what Kitty's husband's name is. The way that they embodied the tethered, it was so animalistic. And, there is a scene where he is, Kitty's husband, the shadow person of Kitty's husband. There's a scene where he's lumbering down the stairs and it's like an orangutan or a chimp or something. It was really, I liked it. They did good. I have thoughts about Winston Duke that we will get to later. He's not on my good list, I'll tell you that. Okay, so finally, we're at what happens in this freaking movie. So while the Wilsons are at their summer home, the shadow people come, the shadow versions of themselves come and essentially commit a home invasion. They are mad. That scene, or maybe it's a couple scenes, or is it one scene? Is it one or two scenes where the shadow people break into the home? Red sits down, such good acting from everybody there. When Red is explaining who she is, why she's there, what she wants, her anger, so well acted, but also very well written. At that point, we get finally an understanding of, okay, we're about to be on the roller coaster now. I thought that was really good writing and very good directing because it was very tense. It was very scary. And even in those scenes, there wasn't a lot of violence. It was just scary because you don't know what's going to happen. Like I said before, the final 20 minutes of this film are so freaking good. I was on the edge of my seat because the pacing was just right. By this time, we've seen a lot of violence, but really the core of that last 20 minutes is the face-off, the emotional tension, and they're fighting, but it's not super bloody until it gets bloody. But the pacing and what's so interesting is the back and forth quick cuts, right? So Peele cuts between Red and Adelaide fighting each other, and then Adelaide and Red dancing. Those cuts between, the two different versions of themselves, wonderful. With the narrative telling us more about what really happened and what's going on. There's a lot of energy in that final scene, but it doesn't feel too frenetic. And then we work up to Adelaide killing Red in very dramatic fashion, and then Adelaide kind of smirking, and you're like, what? What's wrong with you? You just killed somebody. Why are you laughing? But then we find out later why she's laughing. The plot twist of Adelaide and Red being switched out in the funhouse was a complete shock to me. I did not see it coming at all. For as soon as I realized what was happening and little Adelaide was handcuffed, my mouth was like, what? And I was sitting next to a white man in the movie theater and he was yelling. He was just beside himself. He could not take it. Okay. I just thought, that was really good and creative on Peele's part. Not only do we find out that Adelaide and Red are switched, but then we have to go back in those time jumps and see the little actors doing their thing, and we see little Madison with her evil smiles, and even in the back of the car when the parents are driving her away from the carnival with that evil little smirk. So good. That was just good. I always say I love a layered and messy text. I love a text with lots of references and allusions and citations. There's a whole lot of that going on in this movie. So there's a reference to the mole people, and there's Hitchcockian stuff, and there's The Shining. Jordan Peele put so much stuff, and then you have the underground tunnels, and then you have Us, and is that a double entendre? I mean, there's just so much stuff crammed into this 2-hour movie. I appreciate the work that it takes to put all of that stuff together. I appreciate ambition. This movie is the opposite of basic. There's tunnels. There's Hands Across America. There's Thriller. There's all of these old school horror references. So much stuff had to come together in Jordan Peele's mind to make this screenplay. I appreciate that work. We definitely see the work put in, for better or for worse. We'll get into the worst part of it later. I've said in other reviews that we can see in the way that so many films are written and the way that so many films are shot that the people who create them do not themselves empathize with Black people or empathize with the Black characters, that the Black characters are just a means to move a plot forward. That is not what's happening here. We feel deeply for the Black characters in this film. You have no choice. They're the survivors. They are the heroes. And Peele has said in interviews he wanted to create a film where the Black people, the middle class Black people, are heroes. They are that. So if you're watching Us, you are forced to put yourself in the shoes of Gabe and Adelaide and Zora and Jason. And you know, how many movies have you seen about Black folks with summer homes? I haven't seen a lot. How many horror movies have you seen about Black folks with summer homes? I haven't seen one. I always say I like to see new stuff. This is definitely giving us something new, and I always like that. I appreciate it. There are so many little details and Easter eggs in this film that I completely missed the first time. You missed them because you're just trying to keep up when you watch the movie for the first time. But when I watched it for the second time, I was like, oh, okay. So one of them is Adelaide is whistling Itsy Bitsy Spider the first time that she goes into the fun house. And right before Red dies, before we know who Red is, she's whispering Itsy Bitsy Spider. So we're connecting those things. Red is the only one who can talk. And I didn't think about why she's the only one who can talk until I knew the ending. But when I saw it again, it was like, oh, it makes sense that she's the only one who can talk because she's the only one who's been up above. Everybody else in this film it reminded me of the sounds that whales make to find each other. It's echolocation, is that what it's called? So they're just using these guttural noises. But why is it that Red can talk and then her first words are once upon a time, like she's reading out of a little girl's storybook? Because she was kidnapped when she was a little girl. Now, all that stuff comes together after you've seen the movie, but you would never know it the first time. Even the use of the color red, I mean, of course, it relates to Hands Across America. But if this movie, you know, if we believe that Us is a double entendre for U.S. or whatever, I mean, red is a really important part of American iconography. On the American flag, red stands for bravery and valor. And then we have Red talking about the fact that she is the chosen one. They chose her to be out in the forefront and plan this rebellion. If that doesn't take guts, then what does? And what's so interesting is in this movie, you do feel, maybe this is just my politics coming out, but I like the Wilsons. But when we see Red sitting on that little chair in front of the fireplace talking about why she wants revenge, you're like, you got a point. I don't like to see people die. I don't want to see people be killed. But I understand why you're mad. It's almost like Red and all of the shadow people, the tethered, they're Haiti. And then all of the people who have made their lives above ground are France. And they're like, I'm kind of rooting for Haiti right now. Finally, I have to give it to Jordan Peele because not only were there some really interesting plot choices in this film, not only do I appreciate the fact that he gave all of these Black folks jobs who wouldn't normally have access to this caliber of a film, this scale of a film, but the writing of Lupita Nyong'o, Adelaide, as the hero. She was strong. She was smart. She takes control. She saves her family. She is really the center. She's not the fake center. You know, sometimes movies are marketed as progressive, you know, with good gender politics or whatever, but it's like, it's fake good because the woman eventually becomes, a vehicle for the male storyline. There's none of that here. This really is a Lupita Nyong'o vehicle for real. And I love that. Okay, let's talk about the bad. Cause there's some issues. I don't like killing. I don't like blood. I don't like gore. I don't like death. I know this is a horror movie. I know that is to be expected. I didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, don't want to see it. That's just my own personal bias. But the real stuff is there are so many plot holes in this freaking movie. So many. And I think that Jordan Peele uses those big moments, those really just what the fuck moments, in order to distract us from the fact that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be filled in. The first note I wrote was the Shadow family gets into the house because they know where the hide key is. Now, how did they know where the hide key is? It's just weird to me that if Gabe didn't know that there was a key out there, then how did the fake Wilson family know? And that's how they got in. Okay. Red, when she is explaining to the Wilsons why she's going to kill them, Red says that the shadow people are created from the people above and they are controlled. They use the people above to control the people below, or is it they use the people below to control the people above? I think it is they use the people above to control the people below. But my question was, okay, then, so they're so connected that they find the same people, they have kids that look the same, but why don't the shadow people do everything that the people above do? Why do they only do some things? We don't find, like, there's that scene in the closet where Jason is with Pluto and he puts up his hand. It's like that old Groucho Marx thing where he puts up his hand and does that. Okay, so we get why that happens, and then the scene with the fire where Jason has his arms out like Jesus and he's walking backwards and he goes into the fire. But why aren't they always, like, what untethers them sometimes? Why are they tethered sometimes and untethered other times? I think that's important to know. Who did this? Where are they? Why did the experiment shut down? Why haven't more people escaped earlier? When we find out that everybody on the planet has a shadow person, a tether, then, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that nobody has ever escaped before. Or is it just everybody in the United States? No one has thought to escape. Everybody followed Red's lead. I don't know. That seems weird. We don't know what the fuck happened at the end. So Red kills her doppelganger, but there's gotta be like hundreds of millions of other doppelgangers out there, right? If everybody in the country has one, what happened to them? Where did they go? At the end, we see some of them holding hands while the Wilsons are driving off triumphantly, but the story's not over because there's more out there. Are they gonna keep killing? What's happening, Jordan? Let us know. I also wrote, what did the rabbits eat? How did they get rabbit food? Did the rabbits also eat other rabbits? I mean, just little things that came to my mind as I was watching the film. And none of that stuff gets tied up because, like I said, I like the ambition. I like it. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. But the level of ambition that Jordan brought to this screenplay in this film means that nothing gets wrapped up. Nothing gets reconciled. At the end, we're like, whoa, that was a crazy plot twist, but we don't know what the fuck just happened. And that is not an enjoyable cinematic experience for me. I like to know things. Now, I also, like I said, love theory. I can do a lot of, just give me a little bit and I can go off for 30 minutes about that little bit, you know? But we didn't really even get a little bit in this movie. We barely got anything in this movie. And that means that in order to have a conversation about what it means and what he's trying to tell us, you basically have to make stuff up. Because there's just not enough to really grasp onto. I don't like that. Make fewer choices and flesh out those choices so that we, as a viewer, can say, I get it. I see ya. You know, even if you don't all the way understand, you know, it doesn't have to be as prescriptive as Get Out. It does not have to be as perfectly fleshed out as Get Out is, but we just needed a little bit more. There were 1,000 threads in this screenplay, in this film, and like 2 of them got tied up. I don't think that makes for a good film. I don't. Okay, now we have to talk about Winston Duke. Winston Duke is fine. He's fine as hell, okay? I'm trying to ride it. I hope my mom doesn't watch these videos. He's really attractive. Do I think he was the best person for this role? Or I don't know if it's that he wasn't the best person. I don't like the choice that he made with the voice that he used. I understand you wanted to do the corny dad white voice. It just didn't work for me. I mean, even, you know, I know we're not allowed to talk about the Cosbys anymore, but like even Heathcliff Huxtable was a straight-laced, he wasn't suburban, but he was a straight-laced upper middle class dad, but at least he was kind of cool. You know, it's like the Gabe character was just so nerdy and corny and uncool, and he always brought me out of the action. I know he was there to be the comic relief or whatever. It was just annoying for me. It didn't add a lot for me. And even when he tries to do the code switching, when he's trying to intimidate the shadow people, the tethers, when they're outside of the home, and he gets the baseball bat and he's like, we can get crazy. And I was like, ooh, cringe. I just didn't like him. But man, we could hang out. We could hang out. The beginning of this film was really good. It really drew me in. Like I said, loved Little Madison, loved that title sequence. But then there was an hour of movie that just didn't, it was boring for me. So boring that I fell asleep the second time I saw it. They're trying to give us some background about this family and who they are and how they interact and trying to make it, they're just like, this is a quotidian day in the life of an American family. But it was just boring. Didn't like it. Then it picked up about 40 minutes from the end, and then we really got it about 20 minutes from the end. But there is a slow point. So now we can talk about what the fuck is this movie about? What the hell is Jordan Peele talking about? Or is he talking about anything? I love to think through stuff. I love a deep dive. I love a deep discussion. But there were no answers given. So in order for us to talk about what we think this movie is about, we really have to do a lot of grasping and just a lot of pulling out of thin air. But we can do it. So let's do it. Is Jordan Peele trying to tell us that it's time to let women lead? I think that would be a very appropriate message to send in the Me Too era. There are so many times in this film where Adelaide tells Gabe, no, I'm the captain now, literally. She literally jumps into the driver's seat. She's literally saying, I make the decisions. And Gabe doesn't put up a fight. He really has no choice because he doesn't know what he's talking about. And even originally when she was like, someone is after me, he had the nerve to question her. It was Adelaide who said, I don't want to go to the beach. And was it the Wilson family going to the beach that set off this big revolution? We don't know. I mean, that's another thing that is not answered in this freaking movie. Why now? Why that time? We don't know. That's annoying. I'm sorry. But anyways, I appreciate a feminist text, and this text made every effort to be very feminist in who gets to be in charge and who gets the glory. Jeremiah 11:11 comes up a couple of times. We see a man on the boardwalk or at the carnival holding a sign that says it. We see somebody underground with it on their forehead. Jeremiah 11:11 says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them." And we know that Jeremiah, the noun, means a warning, comes from the prophet Jeremiah in the Bible. Just like Get Out is a warning. There are a few religious allusions in this film. The son's name is Pluto. Pluto is the Roman god of the underworld. The shadow father's name is Abraham. Abraham is the father of many nations in the Bible. What is Jordan trying to tell us about the point of no return here? I immediately think of climate change. I think we are about to be over the cliff, past the point of no return. We don't get our stuff together in, 10, 20, 30 years. I immediately think about that. But I also think about the position that we are in socioeconomically. Everybody knows that we are the most politically polarized in this country that we've ever been. But political polarization is an effect of socioeconomic polarization. There is more wealth and income inequality in the United States than there has ever been. And my thought was maybe this is a Marxist fantasy. Karl Marx said that the people will eventually rise up in revolution. And is this about the tethered people being forced out of sight, being marginalized for the benefit of the people on top? And the tethered people at one point said, no, we're going to fuck all this shit up. We're not going to keep eating rabbits. We're going to come out and kill everybody and have a good old fashioned revolution, just like Marx said. There is a thing with mirrors in this film. So the funhouse has mirrors. There's a pair of twins in this film. 11:11 is, of course, mirrors. And is it about forcing us to look at ourselves and reflect on even our position as Americans? There is incredible inequality and stratification in the United States. But if we look globally, Americans relatively in many ways are at the top of social hierarchies and socioeconomic hierarchies. So is it incumbent upon us to reflect on our participation in the marginalization of other people? And it's an interesting choice to make the Black family the center of a story about reflection on how you benefit from the marginalization of other people. When Peele is underscoring Americanness as a theme, when Red says we are Americans, I think it does underscore the way that Black folks in this country, even if we don't care about July 4th and we really don't care about the racist Star-Spangled Banner, we are still the beneficiaries of the sorts of global terror that the United States perpetrates on our behalf. And also, there's a lot of Black and brown folks in the military who are doing all that stuff. My father was in the military, so I'm a direct beneficiary of American imperialism. And do we think twice about the consequences of that stuff? Most of us don't. And not only do we not think twice about the consequences of that stuff, but when Barack and Michelle were in the White House for those 8 years, celebrated that stuff. Black Americans are usually very critical of displays of patriotism and all of that stuff. But for those 8 years, we were excited to be able to swag surf on the White House front lawn or whatever that is called. And of course, we had that look of pure terror on little Adelaide's face when little Red turns around. It's like, like, why is she so horrified? I mean, maybe I would be horrified if I saw a complete replica of me and I wasn't expecting it. But if we really saw ourselves for who we are, would we be equally terrified? Are we deluding ourselves in how we think we represent or who we think we are in the world or how we move through the world? Is that what Jordan Peele is trying to get us to see? I don't know, because he really didn't tell us. Girl, I'm just making all this up. It's like Freud's theory of the ego, superego, and the id. All of these things comprise our ourselves, our being, or even when Du Bois talks about double consciousness, right? It's two, what does he say? Warring ideals, two warring identities, you know, and we're just trying to reconcile that stuff and make it whole. Maybe that's what he's trying to say. Who knows? Nobody knows, but it's provocative. That's all I really got on the movie. I will say this movie has a 100% or maybe close to 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I don't know why. I want to say this as nicely as possible. I think that the work of Jordan Peele is universally hyped for reasons that do not have to do with the actual work. I think particularly when it comes to Black media, there is a certain protectiveness around it because we can't be cultural critics. We can't dare say anything questioning the choices or the decisions or whatever because we feel like we have to protect the creative. I have always opted out for Harriet and will continue to opt not to participate in that. I think good, rigorous cultural criticism is essential to our culture. It is an essential part of journalism, and you can't serve two masters. You can't serve the master of doing good work around analyzing culture and trying to protect creatives. I say all that to say that I hope in the coming days and weeks that we can have good, honest conversations about this film and some of its shortcomings and not feel like Jordan Peele is a Fabergé egg. And if we say one thing, we're going to knock over this priceless relic. I really hope y'all have your little commenting fingers ready because I am genuinely interested in what y'all have to say about these movies, what you liked about it, what you didn't, what your theories about what it all means are. Let's talk. This is a long video. I don't know if I've ever made a video this long, but there was just so much to get through. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for watching. I knew this video was going to be so long. I didn't even make a companion video, but please check out the Patreon. My last video was about me talking about my body dysmorphic disorder, and I've talked about all sorts of stuff. So just go over there, check out all of the patrons only content. I appreciate y'all so much for your support. It's really been so crazy to see this year how much things have changed and how much things have grown. So love it. Love you. Please leave a comment, send me an email, find a way to message me privately, buy some merch, sign up for the email newsletter. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.